All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. It's great to have you. 60% of Americans feel lonely and hopeless almost every day. The average person complains about 15 to 30 times a day. If you consider that people spend about 15 minutes per complaint ruminating about it, that's about a quarter of a day. And, the impacts, what are the impacts on you? You might feel a little disconnected from people. You might feel like you're devoid of some life force or enjoyment or joy. Complaining can cause issues mentally and physiologically in your brain. And what are the impacts in your business? If you consider your target business, your target market in your business is big enough that 6 out of 10 people feel lonely and hopeless. And so the question you may be asking yourself, how are you addressing this? So this is a somber way of starting a speaking engagement, but I promise you it'll be more insightful, because today what I'm going to show you is how you can turn this around for your communities and yourself, and personally and in your business, and why doing so benefits you, your family, your business, your community, and perhaps the world. I grew up I'm going to share a little bit about my life. I grew up in a city called Singapore, and it's an island roughly in the shape of a diamond, as you can see, and it's about 25 miles by 25 miles. And it had 2.1 million people in 1970s when I grew up there. And it was very crowded. And it seems like, everyone walks over each other. You bump into people, they bump into you, you walk over them, they walk over you. But every once in a while, you come across this empty alleyway, and I'm walking from this side, and there's someone coming from the other side. And you can see the immediate conflict in our face. On the one hand, we're a very anonymous kind of society, but we also want to connect as human beings. I don't know if you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? And so there's this really uncomfortable point where we walk by each other and we kind of do the sign language, kind of like this. And the question that always occurred to me as a child was, how can we get more connected with people? A second story, where the house where I lived, in the backyard was this beautiful tropical fruit tree. And it's called the rambutan tree. And every June, it bears this beautiful red fruit. And it makes the whole tree red. And I despise the taste of this fruit, but I loved picking it. So I would pick the fruit and put it artistically on my family dining table. And my mother would look at me and say, you're a strange one. You don't like eating this, but you like picking it. And it occurred to me I really love contributing to people, but I really don't want to keep picking fruit from tree. And so the question that occurred to me, how can I make a bigger contribution in the world? And so fast forward to 1991, I'm here in America, in California, and I started a business, and I had a mentor who was a fabulous man, and he started teaching me the art and science of thinking and playing big. And one of the things he taught me was that, he used to tell me in his gruff voice, Sunil, one of the things you got going is that you're thinking kind of small. Thinking seems to be centered around your own personal issues, your own things, your own goals. And the second thing was, the more that I thought about myself and my own problems, the more I felt stuck. Like it seemed to be like even the more money I made, I still feel very unfulfilled, diminished almost, and I felt like there was more to life, right? And he said that the third thing he said was, the real freedom would occur when you start thinking bigger. And again, he liked 3, the number 3, and there are 3 things involved in this. The first thing is you create a future, and it's a future statement. You could say when you create a future, you create a bigger problem. Kind of like John F. Kennedy when he said, we're going to land a man in the moon in 10 years, 1961. And that immediately caused a big problem because we had no technology to shoot a man into the moon, right? But the interesting thing is when you have bigger problems, what happens to your smaller problems? It tends to get handled. It's kind of like Mahatma Gandhi. If he was trying to get the British out of India and he had to resolve a tax situation with the IRS, he would just go handle it, right? And the second part was a community. If you build a community and if you have a compelling enough future, you tend to find people who come out of the community to help you fulfill this. And the third part is that there's a transformation. I call it a new brand of leadership that occurs when you start playing this bigger game. Okay, this is where it starts getting interesting. So I want to illustrate some stories in my life about how I did this transformation. About a year later, I was having a conversation with my mentor, and I said, I really want to create a breakthrough in my self-expression as a dancer. And, I'd always wanted to dance. And I was this Indian engineer with a thick mustache and a thick frown, and I was extremely clumsy. And I didn't think about it until the next day. He calls me up in my job, and he goes, Sunil, I've been thinking about this. I want you to sign up for a dance show and a dance competition. And then he hung up on me. I'm paying this guy $1,000 a month, and he hung up on me. What's wrong with this picture? He said, I better do something about this. So I called this dance studio called Lawn Dance Studio in Anaheim, Orange County, and I signed up for a dance show and a dance competition. Now I was creating a community to support my vision to have a breakthrough in the future as a dancer, right? And now I had to start practicing. So I remember getting on the dance floor with one of my instructors, Susan, and one of the shows or the dances I was going to do was the tango. And I had 3 months to do this because the dance competition was coming up in 3 months. I never danced before in my life. For those of you who know, tango is kind of like the basic move in tango is ridiculously easy. Because all you have to do is go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Pretty basic, right? So I'm getting the hang of it. And about a week before the competition, Susan pulls me aside and goes, you're getting kind of good at this, but I'm going to show you how to do dip. But don't ever do it during the competition because it's really risky. So she shows me how to do a dip, and I kind of get the idea of it and bring it back, and I don't think about it till the day of the competition. So here I'm getting on the stage, on the dance floor with Susan, and we're getting ready to do our tango, and it's the basic move, which goes like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then this thought occurred to my mind. It says, why don't you dip her? Then the next second, the familiar thought of, but I have no life insurance, and she's going to kill me. And what if I drop her? But the interesting thing was my body was going into this motion of dipping her. I remember dipping her, and she looked at me kind of like, and then she smiled at the judge, and I smiled at the judge in perfect frame. And there's this pregnant pause, because there's 500 people in this ballroom. And then everybody jumps on their tables, yelling and screaming. So first prize in tango, first prize in foxtrot, first prize in waltz after 3 months of ballroom dance instruction. Yeah. And so I had a breakthrough in self-expression as dance. I remember going out into the cold night air of the Orange County and sitting outside and wondering, I'm no longer the same person. Fast forward, this is a picture of me right after that. So you get a sense of the breakthrough in self-expression. Well, fast forward to 1997, I met a friend of mine, Peter Fikowski. And he invited me to join this group called the results.org. And it comprises about 1,000 people all over the world dedicated to ending hunger and poverty by 2050. And so I had a community of people now in this goal, and I was very inspired by this goal, and I took it on. And I was tasked to go to Washington, D.C. and make a request to Dianne Feinstein's aide. Some of you might know Senator Dianne Feinstein passed away last week. And so I practiced really hard. I went to make my pitch to the aide, and I finished it off, and I'm, kind of flustered. And he looks at me, he goes, "I like the way you framed that. Can I borrow some of that wording?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And he looks at me, he goes, "This is a no-brainer. We can get this done." $100 million? Yeah, not a problem. And in the end, just to make a long story, it did get passed many months ago, but in that moment, I was shocked. And I went into the hot summery day of Washington, D.C. outside, sat in the grass, and I realized that this little guy, who was an Indian dancer who couldn't dance before, had just saved 100 million lives in the next 10 years by just making a declaration, getting a support people, and just saying it's going to happen. So fast forward to 2008. And I started getting addicted to creating a future, building communities, and making visions real. And so I created a future vision in 2008 to have 100 million joyful and successful entrepreneurs globally by 2050. And I started building a community, and today we have more than 200,000 plus members and hundreds of groups around the world who are committed to uplifting themselves and eventually becoming joyful and successful. So the new brand, the transformation now, yeah, thank you. The new brand right now is about leaving a legacy. It's not about me anymore. And it never was. It was always about something bigger than myself. And this legacy, this story, is being played out right now, in this moment, with all of you. You're all unwittingly part of this vision that's being created right now. So I invite you to this world of making a difference and building communities to make the vision real. How do you do this? Well, the first thing to do is to create a vision or a vision statement. And how many of you have created a vision statement in your life? Yeah. How many of you made it real? Great. How many of you use the community to make it real? Very good. A few more people. Okay. Very good. How you do it is you start with 20 words or phrases that inspire your call to you. Could be words like integrity or making a difference, or joy, or abundance. And you pick the best 10 words and phrases and you string together a sentence or 2 sentences maximum that you can memorize. So you memorize and practice applying this sentence every single day. So you look towards the day, you have a banner in front of your office, and you apply this. Ladies and gentlemen, I use this vision statement to recontextualize how I do my taxes. How many of you hate doing taxes? Yeah. How many of you hate doing taxes but will never raise your hands? Yeah, very good, with always a few. So it recontextualizes, it reframes how you approach your life. And from the vision, you create a specific measurable goal, let's say in 5 years. And then from that goal, you create a milestone goal for each year. And this is where it gets, probably some of you are not doing this yet, is you want to start creating a community to support you. And nowadays, with the advent of technology, how do we call it, you can use several platforms to create very good communities. I happen to use meetup.com, but you can use meetup.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, and alignable in conjunction and build a very solid community for your business, big hint, or your personal life, or both. And then you create events to teach and inspire and enroll people to support you in the fulfillment of this goal. Now, obviously the beauty is always in the details. But ladies and gentlemen, again, I encourage you to take these steps to make a difference in your life. I thank you for the opportunity to connect, and I thank you for the opportunity to make a difference. Good night. Thank you very much.